So this video isn't exactly going to be like instructional or anything. Perhaps it'll mostly just be my thoughts regarding the whole prepping process, including stretching. I truly believe that the painting does start when you first stretch the painting onto the canvas. It's vital process, obviously. You got to get your support ready for paint. And when I do it myself, when I stretch the canvas myself, I find that the ideas start flowing through my brain. I'm thinking about how I will, attack the painting once it's all ready and dry, and I've, given myself time to think about first steps and next steps. And by taking the time to stretch the painting myself, those ideas come a lot easier, I find. Not all the times, obviously, and especially right now during the pandemic, I find my process has been severely interrupted. A lot of my inspiration to paint and to just sit in front of a canvas and go at a painting, and regardless of whether or not I have any ideas, that inspiration tends to come from moving about the world, moving about my neighborhood, and going to work, coming back from work, the work day, like collecting things from the garden, or on my walks going to and from bathrooms, whatever. Like, I find things that will inspire me, whether I put them directly into the painting or just take a picture of something that I caught my eye. Those sort of things will definitely influence the kinds of marks that I make, or the kinds of colors that I use, or the general atmosphere of the direction I want to take the painting. So yes, that has been severely interrupted. So all that to say, despite my best efforts of putting this painting together and getting it ready for some actual color and collage or airbrush or whatever, this has actually kind of just sat on the easel for a little while I contemplate what to do next. But as you'll see, I did try something new. Right now on the screen you can see me getting this corner nice and neat. I got tacks again. A few of my paintings have been stapled, but then I went on a binge of watching all of Baumgartner Restoration's videos and talking about tacks as always, so I had to order myself some. Couldn't just go to the store, obviously. Had to order them, wait for the next day, and pick them up. So that definitely has a lot to do with nothing is immediate these days, which is fine, and I'm learning to work with that. But one way that I've found to help pass the time and got me thinking differently, I guess, is by trying new things. So in third year, I think, maybe it was in my fourth year of university, one of my professors for, I think it was painting as alchemy, which was a really good class, and it had a huge influence on the way I think about painting and the kind of paintings that I want to make. One of the classes we made rabbit skin glue gesso, so right there is the rabbit skin glue, just getting it ready to sit overnight. this is what it looked like the next morning. It's like super gelatinous, and like I really didn't have much idea of what I was doing. I looked up the materials I needed and the general ratios, and that's why I'm measuring them, but I kind of also just wanted enough to cover the painting that I had, which was 36, I think it's 36 by 48, but I could be wrong. So I was kind of just winging it a little bit, which perhaps resulted in what I ended up with, but I don't know, I don't really care. It really is all about the process, which is, again, back to stretching. Stretching is the beginning of the process, and it all starts from there. I get to just see the painting from start to finish, which is what this video is called. And I think the stretching, and now this is a way more intimate version of the prepping of the gessoing and getting that ground ready for paint. Usually I just get store-bought gesso, which, is fine. It means I don't spend like 4 days prepping the painting, which I'm just realizing now is perhaps why I was working on it for like 4 days, just getting it ready to paint on. And I thought ideas would start flowing, and I do have an idea of what I want to do for the first pass. But also I was sitting with it for 4 days, just gessoing it, and just letting that sit with me. I've been reading and playing a lot of video games lately, while also I ordered some new colors and glue, which you'll see why I need to do that. So right now this isn't gesso, it's just the rabbit skin glue to tighten up that canvas, and because it was a little loose now, but I tightened up, get it ready for the gesso, because it's really thin, and I applied it when it was warm, and you're not supposed to do that. Apparently you're supposed to let it get all jelly, but I didn't really like what it looked like when it was jelly, although I do let it happen a few times, but that's okay. This rabbit skin glue layer first will allow the gesso layers to just sit on top instead of soak all the way through, and it looks just slightly more white instead of what I want. Can just get into the zone there a little bit, because also focusing on like 3 cameras at once, understanding that I'm like being filmed from 3 different angles, and like having to set that all up first before I start gessoing, it's a different experience, but also fun. Again, doing different things in these times allows me to think differently and get new inspirations, and just like not play video games all day, which I still do sometimes because I don't have anything else to do other than paint, and you can't just paint all the time. So breaking up, this stuff actually feels kind of nice, but it gets really sticky. I don't know, maybe some people that have experience with RSG, rabbit skin glue, I'm gonna call it RSG from now on, realize that this is maybe kind of gross, but as you can see, it was weird, but also fine, because it's the best way to do it. There's the titanium white and the chalk that I'm adding to make it gesso. Gotta pour it in slowly. The instructions did say slowly and then mix it all in, but I just could not get it very fine. Maybe a spoon wasn't the best thing to use, but again, I'm not an expert on this, like not even close. This is the first time doing it, and like I watched one YouTube video and read one internet post on like the best way to do it, so probably not the best, but I'm doing something different, and that's what's good. That felt good, and it's all part of the process of the painting, is it turns out the way it turns out, and that's what I have to work with. I have poorly poorly made traditional rabbit skin glue gesso, um, and yeah, that's fine with me, really. I'm not really trying to get it as accurately as possible to when, motherfuckers in the Renaissance were making it. Like, that's not my goal. My goal is to just make it myself, and that's what I did. So I'm pretty happy. I am, because this is post gessoing. I am happy with how it turned out. Next time, it'll probably end up being completely different, although I don't take any notes on how to make it better, so it will just be different and get a different texture, different amount of layers, whatever it is. I have an extra one of these jars. I filled 2.5 jars, and I covered the painting in 1.5 jars, which ended up being like 8 layers, as you'll see shortly. And like 8 layers was pretty good. I tend on like a larger canvas, like 36 by 48. I usually do like I don't know, like 4 layers maybe. Sometimes only 1, if depending on what I'm going for. Sometimes none. Sometimes 10. That's usually on small paintings. The most layers of gesso I've done was 20 layers, but that was in my studio back in December of last year. So, no, not December, January or February. But, yeah, 20 layers is kind of unnecessary, although it's really nice and smooth. Sanding in between each layer, it's real nice. Just part of the process. Just getting to feel and see just how the surface changes over time. There's those 3 jars. So time to go. Starting off the gessoing. It's really tight at this point. The canvases. I should have done an audio clip of like what it sounds like. It sounds like a friggin' bass drum, like. So yeah, this is the montage of layers of gesso and sanding in between. In the first layer, I decided I would sand it outside, but it was snowing. So I think that had a big impact on like the cracks that formed afterward. Cause like I added warm gesso and then let it dry just enough. So it was probably still kind of warm. And then I took it into like negative temperature outside and sanded it, and that probably had a big impact on like how it dried fully dried. There's what it looks like after one pass. There's like, you can still kind of see the fibers, and that one chunk that was missing was like when I let it cool in that like silver bowl there, and it was really gummy, which is what the internet said was you're supposed to do, but yeah, it just ends up like gummy, like peeling off like eraser bits almost. But I guess I didn't let that part fully dry. I don't know. I don't really care. It lends itself to some really cool texture. And at the end of the day, that is really all I want, is just to experiment with this and see what kind of textures I can get out of it. And cracking also isn't a huge deal to me, because I've always wanted to have paintings with cracks in them. Like that's kind of what a lot of my practice is about, is like emulating the outdoor, emulating things that you see on a day-to-day basis, like cracked paint, and it'll allow for like for paint to get stuck in those cracks. So I'm actually really hyped to see what I get. I don't know. I'm just like really excited to start using to start painting on this. And another reason why I haven't actually started painting on it was because I needed some more mineral spirits and linseed oil to, because I realized because it's rabbit skin glue gesso, it's water soluble. So like if I use acrylics and thin them down with water, it'll just peel up all this gesso. Like it'll like mix with the paint, and I don't want that. Like I want it to be a solid base. So I'm just waiting for my linseed oil and mineral spirits to come, and which will also be new to me, which like a pretty much fully oil painting. Like I probably haven't done that since first year, because I like mixing the acrylics and the oils and the airbrush and the spray. I could probably still do airbrush. So airbrush and oils. So we'll see how those two go together, which I'm pretty excited for. So I think I'll be able to pick up my paint in mediums tomorrow, I believe, from Gordesman's, which is a local art store that's pretty tight. So yeah, very interested in how this painting will turn out. And another thing that I had to order from Gordesman's was some wood glue, because I guess I figured this might happen. Maybe I should have expected it, because a lot of the forums say like use this on a panel or something, but it's just stretched canvas. So it got really, really tight, and by the time I did the last layer, which was, I'm not sure what the layer the video is on right now, but did 8 layers of gesso, and by the time it fully dried, like on the last night that it was drying, I heard like the regular cracking sounds, like it was cracking regularly as each layer dried, but then there was like a snapping sound, and I look at the easel, and the stretcher, like the canvas was completely warped. Like it was like turned into a friggin' like rhombus. Like it was got so tight it like snapped one of the corners. So I need to glue it back together so I can actually paint on it properly. Anyways, this is what the painting looks like now after all those layers, and it's fully dried before it got warped. So there's those nice cracks, and it's nice and ready for paint.